Welcome to Crossbow Magazine. I'm your host Todd Bromley. Today I want to talk about the best way to tune your crossbow. There's currently a lot of misinformation out there on various social media networks about how to best accomplish this, but guys are making it way too difficult. There's no need to paper tune your bow. There is no archer's paradox when an arrow is launched from a crossbow like there is with the vertical bow. And as long as the bow is in time, the only inaccuracies are going to come from your arrow. And it's simple to check to see if your bow is in time. There's typically dots on the cams on both sides that you can see in relation to one another to make sure that the bow is in time. Or if you have string stops, you can look down and make sure the string is hitting the stops evenly, or you can measure. But typically if you buy a bow from a top manufacturer, it's going to be in time when you receive it. So there's not a lot of variation that's going to happen. The only deviance is going to come from the arrow, and that's a really simple fix. As far as archer's paradox, that only happens on vertical bows because when a crossbow shoots an arrow, it's coming straight down the rail directly to the target every time. Unlike a vertical bow where the arrow is flexing around the riser and has to get back on course to hit the target, we don't have that with crossbows. The arrow comes straight out, directly in line with the target every time. And the only thing we're fighting is gravity. From the time the arrow leaves the bow, gravity is pulling that arrow down. And I'm going to put a quick clip in right here. I took this 16-inch center punch arrow. It's 475 grains. Got a 200 grain tough head field point on it. And I'm going to use this for an example of what a well-tuned arrow will do out of a quality crossbow. I'm going to shoot this at over 400 feet per second out of a 10-point Havoc RS440 at 20 yards, and you will see how gravity is pulling it down. But there is no archer's paradox, there is no side-to-side deviation. It's just gravity fighting, and that's what we need the fletching for. So at 20 yards, an unfletched arrow at 475 grains, and you can see I hit about 2 inches low from where I was aiming, but that's not bad. That's about as good as you're going to get. And when you put fletching on that arrow, it's just going to be laying them in there all day. So let's take a look at the video. As you can see, I think that's pretty impressive at 20 yards. An unfletched arrow that's fairly heavy in the front. I think that shows you what a well-tuned arrow will do. And so the issues we run into with accuracy out of crossbows, you hear guys saying, oh, I've got 2 arrows that are flyers, and they aren't hitting the same as the rest of my arrows, and I can't get my broadheads to fly, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. What you want to do is make sure your arrows are spine indexed. That's the simplest fix. And the best way to do this is just go to a custom arrow manufacturer and order spine indexed arrows, and all your problems are going to be solved. Crossbow packages come with carbon wrapped and rolled arrows. Almost across the board, they're all carbon arrows. Occasionally you'll have an aluminum arrow or a hybrid, but typically you're going to get a carbon arrow. And the process to making that arrow is a wrap and roll. So therefore there's a starting point and an end point when the arrow is built. And that creates a spine. You'll have a stiff side where the start and end point are, and then you will have a weak side, which is the opposite side. So when this arrow is launched from a crossbow and it starts oscillating, it's always going to go to the weak side. So the way to correct that is to make sure all of your arrows are indexed the same way, so when they leave the bow, they're all flying the same. And it's real simple. Like I said, just shoot your arrows and you will see, you'll get a group, but there occasionally will be a flyer here or there, or put your broadheads on. And there's only 3 adjustments. You just have to rotate that nock to coincide with the cock vane. And it doesn't really matter. I like mine spine down, stiff side down on the rail with the cock vane. but it doesn't really matter. The key is that they're all leaving the bow the same way. So that's the best way to go about it. Contact the quality arrow manufacturer if you don't want to do it yourself. Order spine indexed arrows, and 99% of your accuracy problems will go away. It's not the bow, it's the arrow. So take that for what it's worth, but I think you can see by shooting a well-tuned arrow with no fletching at 20 yards with a 200 grain field point, the accuracy you'll be capable of getting with a well-tuned arrow and a well-tuned crossbow. Thanks for watching.